I'm not much of a data engineer myself, but I've been building some products that need GPUs, and like you're right, like setting it all up locally is tough, but then setting it all up in the cloud is like a second level of toughness. And what you guys have done with Modal, the DX is just like super nice. It's like instead of hopping between multiple YAML files and worrying about my infrastructure, I just write one file, define it all in one place.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
totally.
the DX is amazing.
Yeah, it's zero YAML at Modal. There's like, in fact, there's zero configuration. It's all code, and that's very intentional. That because like, and that's a promise I can make to all the listeners and all the users of Modal. There will never be a single line of YAML in Modal.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit. So like my first example is like Docker. So usually you have to create a Docker file and all of this. How does setting up your Docker instance in Modal work?
I mean, you don't use Docker. So in Modal, you basically describe the infrastructure inside the code itself. And I think this is not necessarily like a novel idea. Like there are some interesting frameworks that do similar things. Like in particular, like we use Pulumi at Modal, and I think Pulumi is kind of interesting in a sense. Like it's like, I don't know, Pulumi, for people who don't know, it's basically like Terraform, but it's like programmable. So it's all like code. And like when I started using it, it like blew my mind. The idea is like really, really, Pulumi has other issues, but like, the core idea is like very solid. Like you just like write code that define, like you can write like for loops and functions that like, create like Route 53, whatever. So I wanted to have something similar like inside the code itself. But then like the step further is like I also want to put the app code inside of it too. I think like there's a couple of like AWS frameworks that do like CDK and like Chalice and a few ones. Sort of the same idea. And I think there's some Lambda-based frameworks. But anyway, the idea with Modal is like you just write code like Python. We focus on Python, and the benefit of for data teams is like 99% of it is Python. And inside the code itself, you just define the environments, but you also write the functions. And then, if you have a bunch of different functions running in different containers, they can just call each other, just like normal Python functions. You don't have to think about, okay, like this stuff is running here, and then I have to like serialize this and invoke this other thing. Like it's just like a function call, like it's internally. So you can build this application inside Modal, just like one single Python script or multiple scripts or whatever, multiple modules. And define all the different dependencies, all the containerization on a functional level, and then have all these like functions calling each other, mapping over each other. And then when you execute that, the model itself builds the necessary containers lazily if needed, and then schedules everything, scales up and down containers as needed, and executes it and streams back the output, right, to your local laptop. Like you don't have to, there's this like AWS feedback loop where you like have to like build a Docker container, push it to the cloud, then go into the like console and click a button, and then it like runs, and then when it's done, you have to download the logs, and then you like look at the logs and you're like, shit, okay, like I forgot to like add a whatever semicolon on this line, right? Okay, I have to start over, right? So whereas like in Modal, it's all just like run the script, and then it like prints the output, and so you have this like very fast feedback loop, and with like I mentioned, zero configuration. It's all like a single script.